Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Life and Drawing. This is podcast 12. And so, in this podcast, we're going to talk about why forgive. And I am not. Let me hit the timer. Keep forgetting to do that. Yeah, why forgive? And as a believer, I understand the instruction on forgiving one another, forgiving those who've wronged you, understanding how we need to forgive ourselves and uh, and what does true forgiveness looks like. And I don't know I can do this in just 12 minutes. Um, but the first thing I want to talk about the importance of forgiving, and when I say forgive, because I'm going to keep it real. Someone, okay, let's go like really extreme, so that way you at least you'll understand my viewpoint. If someone murders one of my immediate family members, like my spouse or my kid, one of my kids, forgiveness is not going to be the first thing that's going to be on my mind. That, uh, as a matter of fact, that'll be the farthest thing on my mind towards that individual or individuals. And not saying that the Holy Spirit can't bring me to a point, but that's not going to be my initial thought of, hey, you know what, let's forgive and let live, and and all the other kumbaya, you know, movements. No, that's not gonna happen. And so, um, something like that happens. Yeah, it's I'm thinking more vengeance, and we'll get to that in a second or in a few minutes. And so, just so you know where I'm at, I'm not blowing smoke up anyone's butt. I say why forgive, and um, so I'm just keeping it real. The first thing I want to touch on why forgive is it frees it frees us to live, and and you and you may not have to go directly to the individual, and sometimes you can't, and that can be difficult as well. If the person passes and they've been they've been lingering animosity and resentment, and you never really got to express that. Um, you know, and that in itself is a entirely different scenario of how do you handle those feelings. But if you're not in that situation, and even if you are, forgiving that individual or individuals frees us to live again. And by that, I just simply mean instead of holding on to that hurt, that pain, uh, uh, especially when it becomes debilitating. I know sometimes folks can turn wrongs as motivation. If you think of like athletes that may be criticized in the media, and they're like, okay, what? Okay, really? You gotta, and that's very light. Or you think of bullying. A student may be bullied because they did all their schoolwork, and so they were referred to as nerds. and but they allow that as motivation to pursue their goals, and now they become incredibly successful in their field of study, and and whatnot. And so yeah, so many times, I shouldn't say many times, there are occasions where folks can use hurt and hold on to the hurt to motivate them to do great things. In other scenarios, we hold on to the hurt and it just gives power to those who have hurt us. And and if we don't move on, it's just a further unnecessary consequence of holding on to those hurt and pain, while giving this person power over us, and and they're none the wiser. And so forgive to free ourselves, to live and to move on, and to release that hurt and that pain for ourselves, not for the individual. We're not forgiving so that they can feel better about themselves, so that they're remorseful. If they are remorseful, they can be relieved that, oh, I've been forgiven. We forgive to free ourselves so that we can live again. And it'll almost be the same thing as extending an apology. If you know you've wronged someone and you're just apologizing so that you can move on. And if the person accepts it or not, that's really on them. But you've apologized so that you've freed yourself to move on, to live, and to not harbor that, oh man, I wronged this person, those feelings of regret. You allow yourself to live again. I think same thing with taking a step to forgive. Second, with with it freeing us to live again, I think it also allows us to cut away from that circumstance or those circumstances, and allows us to live again. Well, in the first point, so taking a step to forgive, to free ourselves. Secondly, by freeing ourselves, it really allows us to cut away from that circumstance. And it may not be overnight. It may not just be, particularly if this is have been issues stemming from years of pain and hurt. It most likely won't be something that's just going to be achieved overnight. Um, and and so, but eventually, I believe it will lead to the point where we can move on, and really move away from that moment of hurt, those years of hurt. Allows us to cut away and sever those ties, so that way we don't constantly relive those moments. I think of, I'm not sure if he's still alive or not. Probably should have researched that before. But anyway, I think of Stanley Toussaint, or Toussaint, and remember him giving a message on forgiving and letting go, and using an analogy based upon a bell tower, and keeping hold of the rope on that bell tower is keeping hold of hurts and not letting go, and forgiving and moving on. And and the analogy was, whenever those thoughts come to mind, you yank on that rope, and the bell tower rings again. And so you have this reverberation of hurt and pain all over again, because we're still holding on to that rope and we're not letting go of the rope to move on. And so, and and because we're humans, we're not gonna completely forget things, but I think we keep a close trigger, a finger on the trigger to pull when we do remember. Um, then we relive it all over again. But if we just let go of the rope, even if those thoughts come to our minds, we will not be readily able to yank the rope again and create this deafening reverberation of pain and doubt and all these different circumstances. And so, one, why forgive, frees ourselves to live again, and secondly, cut away, helps us to sever those circumstances or issues, and then thirdly, helps us to maintain humility. And you'd be like, why do we have to be humble, or why would that be important? Oh, oh, I think my little one is waking up. And I think basically, the more we approach a positive attitude towards forgiving, it helps us to inevitably be receptive to being humble in how we interact with others. So that if we offend someone, we then know on the other side the importance of letting go and forgiving. And I believe the more we do that, the more we have interactions of whether someone, it's not even based on the other person, but we sort of recode our innate feelings of, that's the alarm, our innate feelings of being hurt and hurting others. And it takes a lot to forgive. And so I believe that builds in a certain credit level of, if you're willing to forgive someone, you're really humbling yourself. You're really setting aside. And like I said, for me, it'll be me setting aside my natural propensity to defend myself, to attack back, to stand my ground, and then standing my ground, what are my rights, and are my rights to, lash out, not forgive, and so I think it just helps softens that side of us, and the more we do it, I think the more we become understanding. And when I say understanding, I don't mean like accepting of someone's behavior, particularly disruptive and critical. I mean, it softens us to be able to understand the process of what it means to be hurt and the steps that it takes to forgive the hurt. And like I said again, not so much forgiving the hurt, declare the offender's conscience, but more so to elevate our continence so that we don't live with giving power to someone else over our lives because of what they've done, but surrendering that power and allowing Yahweh to revitalize our whole mind view through those experiences. And so that's it. I think I've gone over. Well, no, I think we heard the alarm. And I don't know, I may get back to this again because it's, there's no justice in a 15, 14-minute talk on why forgive. There's so much things that go deep into this. As you can see, I barely really sketched anything. So I don't know if podcast 13 would be a continuation on forgiving or not, but there's just so many different variations of topics that we can talk about. And if you listen to this, if you're the only person that listened to this, I shouldn't talk like that. I'm for the many thousands and hundreds who listen. And if there's something that you want to talk about, be sure to leave those in the comment section. Also, be sure to like and subscribe. And be sure to check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/MishelLolly. Also, you can go to youtube.com/MichelComics. And Michel Lolly. No, YouTube. Yes. youtube.com/Michel Lolly. Facebook.com/MichelComics. And so, I get myself confused. But anyway, you'll see them all in the description. And yeah, so thanks again, guys, for listening to this 12th podcast episode of Life and Drawing. Peace out.